All right. I ran the numbers on who can actually afford a $500,000 house in 2026, and the answer made me physically uncomfortable because it turns out the salary you need is so high that most doctors and lawyers don't even qualify comfortably, and yet millions of people are signing these mortgages every single month, convinced everything will be fine. Today, I'm going to show you the exact math, dollar by dollar, so you never fall into this trap. Let's start with what $500,000 actually gets you in America right now. In most major cities, a 3-bedroom box with thin walls and a yard you could mow with scissors. Phoenix, Nashville, Raleigh, Portland. These aren't luxury markets. These are places regular people live, and $500,000 is the entry fee. Now, the average American household earns about $84,000 a year. That means $500,000 house is nearly 6 times their total annual income. Historically, the safe ratio was 3 times your income. We've doubled that and called it normal. But here's where it gets wild. Let's talk about what you actually need just to walk through the front door. The down payment. If you follow the classic 20% rule, that's $100,000 in cash. The typical American has 8 grand saved. You're not even in the parking lot. So most people put down 5% or 10% instead, and instantly unlock a hidden penalty called PMI, a monthly fee for the crime of not being rich enough. But the down payment is just the appetizer. The real damage starts the moment your first mortgage payment hits. Yeah, let's break that down piece by piece. You borrow $450,000 at around 6.5% interest. Your principal and interest payment alone is roughly $2,850 every single month. That's just the loan, nothing else. That number doesn't keep your lights on, doesn't fix your roof, doesn't insure your house, it just pays the bank. Now, stack on property taxes, depending on your state, that's another $400 to $700 a month. Add homeowners insurance, which has gone through the roof thanks to wildfires, hurricanes, and floods. That's another $250 to $350 monthly. Then there's maintenance, the expense every first-time buyer completely forgets until reality kicks in. The rule of thumb is 1% of the home's value every year on a $500,000 house, that's over $400 a month, set aside for things breaking. Add the PMI on top, and your total real monthly housing cost is somewhere around $4,300 to $4,500. Not $2,850, not the number the bank quoted you, the full honest number that nobody wants to say out loud. Now here's the critical question. What income do you actually need to handle that payment without your life falling apart? Financial planners say housing should eat no more than 28% of your gross pay. Let's reverse engineer that. If $4,400 a month is your 28%, you need to be earning around $190,000 a year. Read that again. $190,000, and that's just to be in the safe zone. Not comfortable, just not drowning. Even if you use the more relaxed 36% rule that some lenders push, you still need about $147,000 a year. How many households in America clear that? Roughly 15%? That means 85% of the country is mathematically locked out of this price point. But wait, people are buying these homes, right? So who are they? Some are dual income power couples, both earning 6 figures. Some inherited money or got help from family. And some, a lot of them actually, are financially suffocating behind their pretty front doors. Let me paint you a picture of what making it work really looks like. Meet a couple earning $155,000 combined, which sounds great on paper. After taxes, retirement contributions, and deductions, they take home about $9,200 a month. Housing eats $4,400 right off the top. They're left with $4,800 for everything else. 2 cars, insurance, gas, that's easily $1,200. Student loan payments, $500. Health insurance gaps and copays, $350. Groceries for the family, $750 if they're disciplined. Utilities, internet, phone plans, another $400. We're now down to $1,600, and we haven't bought a single piece of clothing, taken the kids anywhere, or put one extra dollar into savings. That razor-thin margin is supposed to cover every surprise life throws at you. And surprises will come. The furnace quits in January. $4,000. A tree falls on your fence. $2,500. Your kid breaks an arm on the playground. $1,800 after insurance. Each one of these is a financial earthquake when you have no cushion. This household, earning well above average, is spending 48% of their take-home income on housing. That's not the 28% the experts recommend. That's not even close. They're nearly at the half their paycheck mark, and they're supposedly upper middle class. Now imagine this scenario at $120,000 household income, or $100,000, or the actual national median of $84,000. At median income, your take-home is roughly $5,800 a month. Your housing cost is $4,400. Do that math and try not to panic. You'd be spending 76% of your take-home pay on housing alone. That leaves $1,400 a month for food, transport, insurance, debt, childcare, and literally everything else a human being needs to survive. It's not tight. It's impossible. So why does nobody talk about this? Because everyone in the transaction profits from your ignorance. The bank earns interest on a 30-year loan. They'll collect nearly double the home's price over the life of that mortgage. Your $450,000 loan actually costs you around $850,000. The real estate agent earns a percentage of the sale price. Higher price, bigger commission. They're not paid to talk you out of buying. The insurance company locks you into decades of premiums. Nobody at the closing table loses money, except you. And once you sign those papers, you're locked in. You can't just call up and say, actually, I changed my mind. Walking away means destroying your credit, forfeiting your down payment, and potentially owing money you don't have. It's a financial trap with a welcome mat. Here's what being house poor actually feels like on a Tuesday night. You're checking your bank app before deciding if you can buy ground beef or if it's rice and beans again. Your kid asks for new soccer cleats and you feel a knot in your stomach because that's $60 you genuinely don't have. You skip the dentist because the copay would wreck your budget. You tell your friends you're busy when they invite you out because you can't afford a $30 dinner. You lie awake running calculations in your head, hoping the car doesn't need new brakes this month. And the worst part? You can't even talk about it because everyone around you is pretending they're fine too. Social media is full of people showing off their new kitchens while silently maxing out credit cards behind the scenes. The illusion is airtight. We've somehow turned financial suffering into a badge of honor. Oh, you're house poor. Welcome to adulthood. We've rebranded a crisis as a rite of passage, and it's one of the most toxic financial myths of our generation. Let's zoom out and look at how we got here. Since 1990, home prices in the U.S. have jumped roughly 400%. Wages in that same period? Up about 180%. That's not a gap. That's a canyon, and it's getting wider every single year. Your parents could buy a house for 3 times their salary. You're being asked to pay 6 times yours. And everyone keeps telling you to just work harder or cut the streaming subscriptions. As if canceling Netflix is going to close a $200,000 affordability gap. The just budget better crowd doesn't understand the scale of this problem. You cannot coupon clip your way out of a systemic affordability crisis. You cannot manifest a lower interest rate. The problem isn't your spending habits, it's the math itself. Interest rates are the silent killer in this equation. In 2021, you could get a 30-year fixed at 3%. On a $450,000 loan, that's $1,900 a month. Today, at 6.5%, that same loan costs $2,850. That's an extra $950 every month for the exact same house, nearly $350,000 more over the life of the loan. And here's the kicker. Home prices didn't drop when rates went up. They were supposed to. Economics 101 says when borrowing gets expensive, demand falls and prices correct. Instead, prices stayed stubbornly high because inventory is still historically low. People who locked in at 3% aren't selling. Why would they trade a cheap mortgage for an expensive one? So, the supply stays tight, prices stay inflated, and new buyers get squeezed from both sides. Higher prices and higher rates. It's a perfect storm of unaffordability. So, let's talk about what you should actually do with this information. Because I'm not here to just depress you. I want to give you a real framework for making smart housing decisions, whether that means buying or not buying. Step 1, forget what the bank says you qualify for. That number's their risk tolerance, not yours. A bank will approve you at 43% debt to income because statistically, you probably won't default immediately. Probably won't default immediately is not a financial plan. Step 2, calculate your real monthly cost, mortgage, taxes, insurance, PMI maintenance. Utilities increase from a bigger space, all of it. Then compare that number against 28% of your gross income. If the real cost exceeds 28%, you need to either increase your income or decrease your target price. Step 3, stress test your budget. Ask yourself, can I still make this payment if one income drops by 30%? What if rates on my adjustable loan jump? What if I need a $5,000 repair in month 3? If any of those scenarios would push you to credit cards or panic, the house is too expensive. Step 4, and this is the one nobody wants to hear. Consider that renting might be the smarter move right now. I know. Renting is throwing money away. That's the biggest myth in personal finance. You know what else throws money away? Interest payments, PMI, property taxes, and maintenance on a house you can barely afford. In fact, for the first 7 to 10 years of a typical mortgage, the majority of your payment goes to interest, not equity. You're basically renting money from the bank. The difference is, if your fridge breaks when you're renting, that's the landlord's problem. When you own, that's your $2,000 problem. Here's a strategy that actually builds wealth. Rent for less than a mortgage would cost, and invest the difference in index funds. Historically, the stock market returns about 10% per year. Real estate, about 4% after you factor in all the costs of ownership. Someone renting at $1,800 a month instead of paying $4,400 on a mortgage has $2,600 in monthly savings to invest. Over 10 years at market average returns, that's roughly $530,000. You could literally buy the house outright with that kind of discipline. Now, I'm not saying never buy a house. Home ownership can be great when the numbers actually work. What I'm saying is stop treating it as an obligation and start treating it as a math problem. Emotions buy houses people can't afford. Spreadsheets don't. If $500,000 doesn't work, look at $350,000 or $300,000 markets instead. Yes, that might mean a different city, a longer commute, a smaller kitchen, but financial breathing room is worth more than granite countertops. You can't eat equity, but you can eat dinner without checking your bank balance first. Some of you watching this are going to ignore everything I just said and buy the $500,000 house anyway. I get it. The pull is strong, society is loud. Your real estate agent just sent you a listing with a farmhouse sink. But when you're 6 months in and you can't sleep because you're mentally budgeting your grocery trip, remember this video. I'm not trying to kill your dream. I'm trying to protect it. Because the real dream isn't a house, it's freedom. Freedom to handle emergencies without panic. Freedom to invest in your future. Freedom to say yes to life instead of checking your bank app first. A house you can barely afford doesn't give you freedom. It gives you a 30-year sentence where you work for walls. Real wealth isn't trapped in a property you can't sell without losing money. Real wealth is options, flexibility, by the ability to weather a storm without everything crumbling. Here's my challenge to you. Open a spreadsheet tonight, plug in your real income, calculate the true monthly cost of any house you're considering. Every single line item. Then look at what's left. Is there room to save, to invest, to live? If the answer is no, you have your answer. And if you're sitting there feeling like a failure because you can't afford a $500,000 house, stop. Right now. You are not the problem. Wages that haven't kept up with housing are the problem. A system designed to approve loans that shouldn't exist is the problem. A generation ago, a single income could buy a family home. Now, two professional salaries can barely cover the same thing. That's not a personal failure, that's a policy failure. And recognizing it is the first step to making decisions that actually serve your interests instead of the bank's. The market will try to pressure you. Agents will say, prices only go up. Lenders will wave pre-approvals in your face. Your cousin will post their new house on Instagram, and you'll feel that sting. But pressure is not a reason to sign a 30-year contract. Clarity is. Maybe the right move is waiting 2 years while you stack savings. Maybe it's relocating to a market where $350,000 gets you a real home. Maybe it's buying a $250,000 starter and building up from there. There are paths that work. They just don't look like what TikTok told you home ownership should look like. The people who win the money game long term aren't the ones who buy the biggest house the fastest. They're the ones who keep financial margin in their lives. They can absorb surprises. They invest consistently. They don't sacrifice their future for status today. That is the real flex. Not granite countertops, right? Not a 3-car garage. The real flex is being able to handle a $5,000 emergency without flinching. Being able to quit a job you hate without your mortgage holding you hostage. Being able to say yes to opportunities because you're not financially paralyzed. So, here's my final word on this. The housing market wants your money. The banking industry wants your interest. Social media wants your envy. None of them want your financial health. That's your job. And the best tool you have is honest math. Run your numbers. Be brutally honest. And if a $500,000 house doesn't fit, that's not a failure. That's intelligence. That's self-respect. That's choosing a life you can actually enjoy over a house that slowly crushes you. If this video saved you from making a $500,000 mistake, or even just made you think twice, hit that subscribe button. I make videos like this every week, breaking down the money math that nobody else wants to do. Drop a comment telling me your housing market horror story, and share this with someone who needs to hear it before they sign those papers. Because in a world that profits from your financial confusion, understanding the real numbers is a superpower. Use it. And if you're ready to take your first step toward financial freedom, then watch this next video and learn how to make every dollar work in your favor. Your future self will thank you.